Here's everybody. What's up, group? Alright, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm Julia, and this is my narrative. So how many of you have ever been on an awkward first date? Whether the girl had lettuce stuck in between her two front teeth, or the guy wouldn't stop talking about his ex-girlfriend no matter how many times you asked him to. Yes, this happens. I think everyone's experienced an awkward date at some point in their lives. But my awkward date taught me a good lesson in life and love, and also gave me a fun story to tell. So, from experiencing an awkward first date, I learned that things don't always happen the way that you think that they will. The strangest date that I ever went on was my first date with my husband. I had met him at a party, and I didn't really know him very well. It was practically a blind date because when I met him at the party, I met him for about 2 minutes when I met about 20 other people that night. And so I was surprised the next day when he called me saying, "This is Brian," and I didn't remember Brian. But apparently my friend, Rachel, thanks Rachel, I gave him my phone number, and so he took it upon himself to call me and ask me on a date. When he arrived at my house to pick me up, I was surprised to see that he was driving a 1990 tinted green Celica that I thought was going to die on the way to the restaurant and smelled like something had died inside of it. And so we got to the restaurant, and he said he was going to take me out for Mexican food and then a movie. And I was glad because Mexican food is my favorite food. I thought maybe he got my favorite restaurant with my friend, and that was why he decided. But instead, he took me to the worst Mexican restaurant in the worst part of town. So I had to make my way through dinner. I ordered a taco salad, which is probably the most unattractive thing to eat on a first date. I was probably one of those girls with lettuce in my teeth. And after getting through dinner and finally getting our check from our waitress, who had pretty much ignored us all night, he decided to take me to the movie. And I just assumed that he had checked on movie times, because this is normally what you do before a date, but he didn't. And so when we got to the movie theater, there was absolutely nothing playing at that time. So he said, "Do you want to go back to my house to watch a movie?" Automatically I thought, like, ew, he's a creep. Who is this that my friend set me up with? No, I'm not going back to your house. But then I remember he lived with a roommate, and it was one of my best friends who introduced me, so I knew he was a good guy. So I said, okay. So when we got to his house, it was a super nice house. And so I'm thinking to myself, why is he driving around the Celica when he lives in this huge house with his roommate? Well, when we got inside, I found out why. It was his parents' house. Even though he lived on his own, he took me to his parents' house for our first date. And not only was it his parents' house, his whole family was inside for movie night. His mom, his dad, his brother, his sisters. It was so awkward. So as soon as we got in, they all started staring at me. His mom was asking me 500 questions, thinking I was his new girlfriend, and I had just met the guy. So needless to say, it was not the best day ever. So now that you know the comedy of my first date, let me tell you about my fairy tale ending. So even though the date was less than amazing, after having time to digest it and tell all my friends about how horrible it was, I started thinking maybe it wasn't that bad. All of my friends thought that he was kind of crazy because he took me to his parents' house on my first date. They said it's kind of like the movie Psycho. They thought maybe I shouldn't go out with him again. But I thought, well, it's kind of flattering because obviously he thought highly enough of me to introduce me to his parents. Obviously he was planning on taking me out again because he liked me enough to bring me home. And I found out that he had only brought home a couple of his serious girlfriends in the past, so I really felt flattered. But although it was weird to meet his family so quickly, and although they asked me all kinds of weird questions, I started to think about them too, and realized that they were actually kind of like the perfect family. I mean, who has a movie night on a Friday with their 20-year-old kids? So it was kind of nice. But this situation taught me some valuable lessons. It taught me not to judge a book by its cover. Even though the date was horrible and I didn't think anything was going to come out of it, I ended up being with him every day after that, and we ended up getting married. So obviously it worked out. And even though the date wasn't good, we still made the best of it and still had fun together. We still had good conversation up until the conversation with his parents. And just because it wasn't typical, it was still good because obviously it gave me a good story to tell. It gave my friends and family some entertainment, and it gave me love. So I guess the moral of the story is sometimes you find love when you're not expecting it. And I didn't want a boyfriend, much less someone who wanted to be so serious so quickly, and I ended up finding a husband. So even though it wasn't the perfect fairy tale, it was my fairy tale. And I'd always imagined my husband, when I met him, picking me up for a date, like in a nice convertible on a starry night, and I would be in a ball gown and he would be in a tuxedo, and my hair would be perfect. And when we got to the ballet, my hair would still be looking exactly the same even though we had the top down. Obviously that didn't happen. I didn't think it would be Anna Celica taking me to a Mexican restaurant and a family movie. But even though it was unconventional and awkward, it gave me life lessons. So a quote by Timothy Alvera says it best. There are two kinds of sparks, the one that goes off with a hitch like a match, but it sometimes burns quickly, and the other that needs time, but when the flame strikes, it's eternal. Don't forget that.